Welcome back to the Dark Corner.
That's a good one. That's a good voice. Keep using it.
Welcome back to the Dark Corner. My name is Cheese Film, and today's movie is Star Wars. Star Wars is a 1977 sci-fi epic. It brought together fans and film bros alike. Today, on this very special episode of The Dark Corner, we will be discussing sci-fi's most popular Star Wars film, A New Hope. This is a fun little side intro because this is a bonus episode.
Did you ever watch that AI-generated Star Wars if it was made in like the 50s? It has that kind of aesthetic.
No.
Oh my god, it's awesome. And a guy talks kind of like that, I think, in it.
The Star Wars.
Yeah. The thrills of all that stuff. It's really cool.
Well, I was trying to kind of emulate on one of the bonus features. I saw the original trailer for it.
Yeah.
And they do that kind of stuff.
About a boy, a girl, and a galaxy.
Yeah, it's about a boy, a girl, and a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. A New Hope. Well, actually, I don't know if we'll be talking about A New Hope because today being May 4th, I think it'd be cool just to talk about the theatrical version and compare it to A New Hope. So we can talk about both of them. Or we can just talk about it in general because it's the same movie, really.
It's absolutely the same movie.
Yeah, you don't
like
lose
the
anything.
stuff at the end, those the fight special effects that they beefed up, that's better.
You know, it gets so much hate, and well, I can understand it because like on Tatooine when they're coming through on the land speeder and that alien elephant-looking thing walks in front of it, I get it. You don't want to see half an alien leg in your screen. I get it, but there's also like it's amazing world building. Like you're throwing in new things, and because it's George Lucas doing it, I think you should not really fight it because it's him playing in his own stuff still.
Yeah, right,
I don't think it should be the only versions of the movie you can get.
No, well nowadays it is, but that's not his fault.
No,
and like the Blu-ray and those DVDs that came out, where you get that version and the theatrical one.
Yeah,
that was great. Those are the ones you should buy.
Those, and I have them. And if you've got a good TV, you've got a good player, like they look good. They're not in 4K, but they still look good because the movie looks good.
It does. And let me tell you something about 4K and Star Wars. I don't care. I had it looked like a big flashlight. It was probably about a foot long. It was a flashlight. And it had slides of illustrations of the movie. And it was like a comic. It was not the comic book. Not that kind of art, and it was not the comic book. But it had like a stack of inches thick of slides to watch the whole Star Wars. And it was Star Wars. It was only Star Wars. And it looked great if you got a real little one. But if you put a big one on the wall or the ceiling, I used to do the ceiling, it was awesome. So the quality, give me some good quality. I don't need 4K.
Yeah. Honestly, I think Blu-ray is good enough. It looks definitely stunning. And I get it. It's going to last.
It's not a videotape.
It's not a videotape. It's not deteriorating in time. It's always going to look like that.
Yeah.
And I think the disc is superior to the digital because if your internet drops at all, your picture drops. So if you've got a good Blu-ray player, these movies are fantastic.
Yeah.
Even the DVD looks fantastic.
I don't have a problem with the DVD, and I could probably tell the difference between the DVD and the Blu-ray if I thought about it, but it's too minute to really care.
It really is.
So get it, the DVDs.
1080p is 1080p. It's still high definition.
Yeah, and they were in stereo. And it might have been Dolby Stereo. I think it's just regular old stereo, though. Because I like to watch that one. Because you could really tell with the sound. Really. And the opening, the Lucasfilm limited thing is completely different. It's just words.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cool little differences, and if you need the sound, then watch the newer ones. But if you don't need the sound, you want to watch it like that because it's not as vibrant by a long shot.
Well, and if he didn't see, George Lucas was such a revolutionary that the reason why things sound as good as they do today can be attributed to him.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
he put all the effort into that surround sound system, like the THX stuff that everybody
THX stuff.
memes on, like the
Yeah.
that was him. He did that.
THX is
113.
Yeah, his movie. I was watching it was on YouTube, but it was like somebody collected the bonus features from Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and the guy, Harv Bennett, was talking about how they got people that were inspired by Star Wars working on Star Trek, and like, no, you got to have all these little tiny details or else it's not going to be to scale and all this stuff. And they're like, well, these are two different things, and they are completely different.
Completely different.
Because Star Wars is supposed to be lived in, and that's what George said, whereas Star Trek is a sleek utopia kind of thing. And I don't think they did a good job with their smooth ships in Star Trek. I don't have a problem with it, but those little details, it's incredible. And I can't think of his name. Jamie, right? Is he the younger guy on
Joe Rogan?
No, on Mythbusters.
Jamie's the guy who kind of looks like a walrus.
Okay, the other
Adam.
guy. Adam. Because he used to do that. He worked on 1 and 2.
Oh, did he?
Yes, episodes 1 and 2.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. And he's got pictures of him with the
pod racers?
No, it's Camino. I was going to say Camonians, but I don't know how to. Those the Scoopy looking things.
Buildings?
He made those. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And he made all of the ships in episode 1 were practically made, and he worked on some of them at the end. But episode 2 he worked on in the Camino and that kind of stuff. But when he's talking about, how they take model kits and cannibalize them, and he was saying all the stuff that goes into that, it's just amazing.
It's amazing levels of detail.
Yeah, that's one good thing about DVDs is those special features and stuff. Anybody should watch them. They're just so fascinating.
I was cleaning up the house a couple years ago, and I was like, I want to watch Star Wars, but you know what? I haven't put the bonus disc in. I'll just put that in. And I ended up stopped cleaning the house to watch all of the bonus features on Revenge of the Sith, because I've got those like documentaries essentially about how they do it all, and like it is
each one does
amazing.
Yeah, episode 3 is like, you don't know all the people that go into making a movie, and they describe all of that. That's a good one.
So good.
The Phantom Menace one and that one are my favorite ones of those. And I don't even remember. I think the Clone War or Attack of the Clones is basically just an hour and a half making of.
Yeah.
And so is the Phantom Menace, but it's
Star Wars.
30 years making of.
Yeah.
It's really good. They're good movies. I would have paid to go see them in the theater.
You did pay to go see them in the theater?
No, I mean those documentaries.
Oh, those.
Yeah.
And these movies, they're testaments to everything.
Yeah.
They're revolutionary in so many ways. Every single one of them does something new that pushes the envelope.
That the last one didn't do. That was pushing the envelope.
It was nuts. Because, you've got New Hope. I'll just call it a New Hope for ease of sake. It's not this interlocked awesomeness, like it's got a whole bunch of different weaves and turns.
Yeah.
It's very straightforward.
Absolutely straightforward.
Boy saves princess. That's really it. Those are when you do film school or whatever, they teach you the hero's journey. It is as textbook as you can get it.
Yep.
And it's the flavor that really makes it, because it's lived in. and it's lived in correctly. Like Rebel
Yeah.
Moon tries to do that lived in stuff too.
Does it?
But it overcomplicates everything. It's not just like a poor farm boy in an evil empire. It's like there was this history in this war, and here's a bunch of information about it monologued, but then here's not enough information so that when these things show up, it's like it's expecting for you to like know what it is going on. It's just too much.
Yeah.
It's almost done incorrectly, which is odd because the movie looks so great to waste it on that. But Rebel Moon
looks great.
Rebel Moon looks so good. It looks so good, and it was supposed to be a Star Wars film.
Yeah, I know.
And I think that's probably why it is the way it is, because it just replaced that.
Yeah.
You know, so instead of the Empire, it's a different empire.
Right.
You know, and that's instead of coaxium, it's coal. You know, they do that kind of stuff. And but even that, like Zack Snyder wanted to make a Star Wars movie. Everybody wants to make a Star Wars movie. J.J. Abrams, he's like, well, I can't say no to making a Star Wars movie. It is the diamond in the crown. Like it is that big of a deal.
It's like making a James Bond movie.
Yeah. And it all comes back to this little movie that wasn't thought to being good. Like when George made it, he like went to Hawaii with his best friend Steven Spielberg, where they thought up another idea, which became Indiana Jones.
Yeah, because he wanted to do a James Bond movie.
Yeah. How nuts is that? That this little movie that was basically a college project became what it is today, and he thought it was going to be so bad that he then went on to make another giant franchise. And it's all like
all these like
George.
Marvel owes it to Star Wars.
Yeah.
Everything.
They really pushed the envelope. They drew the line. None of this was like this before it. Like we were talking about with Planet of the Apes. They had some toys and cartoons and stuff like that, but then when this came out, they had
about it.
Everything.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, where George had, I don't know how it came about, but when he said, I want to make toys for this, that was the best decision he ever did. Because, whew, and it became books, spin-off shows, comic books, everything. It was intense. The boom that this was.
Yeah.
Alec Guinness, when he was on making this, he was like, "Oh, this is nothing. Nobody's even gonna watch this."
Yeah. And still didn't phone it in.
No, he didn't. He gave it his all. He's doing a great job. Guy. Harrison Ford was a nobody actor. He did one other movie before this as like
that George Lucas movie.
A favor to George. He was his landscaper or gardener.
Yeah.
And he sat in for the table reads.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, why don't you just do it? And that's how it. Popular character Han Solo, even bigger movie star Harrison Ford came to be. This movie kicked off a lot that we see today. It's truly amazing. And the imagery too, like who was it? I think it was Mark Hamill. Was when they were filming Star Wars, he's like, George, don't you think you should have something when Darth Vader comes out that he's like, I am the evil Darth Vader. And George was like, I think, all guy in black, all white around him. I think they'll get it. And you do.
That's it. You didn't need all the backstory, nothing.
You don't.
Everybody knew immediately who was the good guys and who was the bad guys.
And how do you replicate that? How do you replicate something like that? It's so simple. It's the show don't tell thing.
Right.
And it's there. Why do so many other people struggle with that? What does he do? He comes in through smoke. He's all in black. He's got a helmet on. He doesn't say anything. He just looks at all these dead rebels. Yeah, and then he walks away. Doesn't care. So good. I keep saying it.
Yeah, and it's everybody's reaction to him.
Yeah, they all get out of the way. Yeah. He's huge.
Yeah.
He's so big, and he looks big. He's like supposed to be like 7 feet tall, and they use a lot of good camera tricks.
Yeah.
With that.
Well, the guy was pretty tall too.
Yeah, David Prowse. He like when he's holding up the rebel in his hand, and he's like, "Where are the plans to the Death Star?" and he's holding him up, and then he just throws him against the wall. Like, this is his first introduction. This is all you need. Now
That's
you
all
know
you
for
need.
a fact this is your bad guy.
And you shouldn't mess with him.
No. It isn't even till later you even hear about the Force.
Yeah.
And he's doing his bare hands. And now, well, how long has it been since this movie came out?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
And everything's Force now. Everybody's picking stuff up. It's the Force. It's the Force.
It's all easy.
The very first thing this guy does is pick somebody up with his bare hands.
Well, turns out they're not really hands, though.
Yeah, they're robots. He's more machine than man now, which is a really cool
That's cool, too.
little detail. That, because like we don't know what he looks like underneath. We never get to see what he looks like underneath it until episode 5, when he takes the helmet, when the helmet's coming
that's
down.
briefly in the back of his head.
Very briefly, and then in episode 6 when he takes the helmet off, basically completely. You don't know he's all machine under there. You don't know that at all.
Nope.
He cuts his hand off and it's all wires.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's so cool. And then Luke looks at his own hand.
Yeah.
And oh my
Great
god,
ideas.
so good.
Great.
And it's not overly complicated.
It's not complicated at all.
It's just pacing. It's he said
And
the
like
line.
the character development too.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
And even when you first, everything's set up, it's just so set up in the best way. Like, you don't know anything about R2D2 and C3PO.
Right.
Their first time you see them on screen, they're walking in between laser fire. And you're like, okay, so these are the two we're going to be following, because we are literally following them through this battle.
Right.
Like, we're not even focused on this anymore. These two showed up, and that's where we're going. Oh, did you hear that? Like, it's normal to them, so it's normal to us. And then we've taken on this space opera, this journey, this adventure through the galaxy.
Yeah, and it's not like people are introduced or anything like that. You don't find out their names until way late into the movie.
Yeah.
And like Luke's name, you find that out accidentally because someone's calling him that. You don't have to explain things.
And you know what's even more funny is it's all offhanded. When the droids, when Owen is buying the droids, he's like, well, how much for that R2 unit? Not R2D2.
Yeah.
R2 unit. What about the 3PO droid? Like, they're just offhanded things. And that's it. That's all you get.
Yeah.
They
like
don't call
live
him
in
R2.
that world.
Exactly. I don't think R2D2 is called R2 until episode 5. He's just kind of there. They don't really address him
Yeah, really, they don't.
at all. And a lot of that, I think, comes from the toys. Because
Yeah.
all of that stuff gets those names from that. Kenner, I think it was
all
Kenner,
of that.
did all
Kenner
the toy
it
lines.
first, yeah.
And the like R2D2, C3PO, all that kind of stuff. That's where that was. It could have been in the script, and they just kind
Yeah,
of
it was. But,
shorthanded it.
they're like blah blah blah. We are following R2D2 and C3PO.
Yeah.
They don't really mention their name. They don't call them too much at all. They're like, "Can you shut him up?" and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But like that, like the two dopes in the hidden fortress. Everything around them is what we're watching. They just happen to be there. The camera's hooked onto them, basically.
Right.
And we go with them. And everything else is happening. That's such a great idea, too.
It's that's.
And it's not like none of the stuff is original.
No.
It's the way they
All the
made
stuff
it was
was
original.
stolen,
You
yeah.
took it all from somebody else. It's great. Including Flash Gordon, all that stuff.
You just pointed out Hidden Fortress.
Yeah.
Akira Kurosawa was a heavy influence on this. You can see that a lot with like the Jedi and the Jedi
Yeah.
portrayal and how
And they got to
mystic
hold
it
those
is
lightsabers
with the two hands. Yeah. And it just, there's so much going on. There's so much, and it's never a dull moment. Like you see sand crawlers coming
Yeah.
over the dunes. You see,
Well, it's not for you so much, but definitely back then, you don't see anything like anything that was
Anything
on
like
there.
that.
Nothing. Any kind of horror sci-fi movies had way more relatable stuff in it, and this has people that are humans.
yeah,
That's where the relatability ends, and it really just blew everybody's minds away. Somebody was just talking about the opening shot with the Star Destroyer goes over your head.
Yeah.
But it's not really.
The
But
canyon.
it blew everybody away.
And like that, like there hasn't been really anything like this before. Like George had to come up with a way to make something not very big look massive.
Yeah, and he did.
It
Well,
did.
they did.
Yeah.
Him and the team. But like, I used to watch this sci-fi. I guess it was kind of a superhero thing. It was on Earth, but this guy, man, I can't remember the name of it. He looks like the Rocketeer, and he'd be flying, or there'd be spaceships flying. Because I didn't watch Flash Gordon, but there was another thing that was out in space, and the smoke is just going straight up. The thing, it has like a firecrackery looking propellant stuff, but the smoke's going straight up. And it's supposed to be going so fast, and it's all just BS. And then this comes along and just forget about it, because that C-3PO is a real thing.
Yeah. It's a guy in a suit.
Yeah.
All of it's a guy in a
All
suit.
of it. And even the ones that are puppets, it's just so believable.
It is.
And you can't really point out stuff like the smoke's going straight up, or the Rocketeer looking guy, his smoke was going straight up too when he was supposed to be flying, and that's not how it would work.
And they do something really cool with this. So instead of like having rockets with like a big exhaust, in order to not have stuff like that happen, it's just a light.
Yeah,
Of
and
the
that's got to
power.
be cheaper to do.
It's gotta be. And again, like this is all shot in like Death Valley
Yeah,
and stuff like
Oh,
that, and it's intense. You can tell that the mid
Well, Tunisia was filmed in Tunisia,
and Tunisia,
which is a desert.
that there's large parts of this planet that do look alien, and if you get it
Sure, there's lots
enough
of things on this planet that look
alien, yeah. Oh Lord. So, Star Wars, it opens up. We've got the evil Darth Vader. He's looking for these Death Star plans.
Yeah, they don't explain what the
None
Death
of
Star is. Nothing.
They explain it when it blows up Alderaan. That's
Yeah, but I don't think they call it the Death Star. I think the only time they mention it is like the plans are for the Death Star.
The plans
It's
are
not
for
like,
the
oh,
Death Star.
hey, look, that's the Death Star.
Oh, it's a space station. I think maybe one time in the little council room when Vader chokes the guy,
Yeah,
he calls it.
because of the technological terror.
Yeah, but didn't somebody say this Death Star is more
No.
powerful or something?
Oh, this space station.
Space station.
is
Yeah,
the
they
most
just keep calling it a
powerful
space
in the
station.
universe, yeah.
And I think you're right though. I think the only time Death Star is even mentioned is where the plans for the Death Star.
Wait a minute. Maybe not.
Princess Leia got these plans to the Death Star. I think at the right before the Battle of Yavin.
The plans he's carrying, I don't think anybody ever says the Death Star.
Interesting.
Now I gotta check it out.
Well, because nobody.
Might be wrong. I don't think they ever mention it.
I think they mention it. I know when they're doing the readouts. I think that Captain Admiral guy says it once at the very end when they're two proton torpedoes down the exhaust. I think he says Death Star somewhere.
He might say, you're talking about the guy with the beard.
Yeah.
He might say Death Star. He might. I don't think they do.
You know, and that's real funny.
Yeah,
That
that's what makes it so cool.
Yeah, because like AT-AT and AT-AT,
Yeah, they don't ever mention those.
Ever
They're just
once.
Imperial Walkers.
Imperial
The
Walkers.
toys called them AT.
Yeah.
AT-ATs, that's what we used to call them. And they
that's
didn't
it.
say, no, they don't have chickens, so the Chicken Walker one
Yeah.
wasn't called the Chicken Walker in the movie.
It's so impressive how layered this is.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it's not just straight. It's straightforward and not straightforward either. It's well, maybe he's related to old Ben Kenobi.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan Kenobi, like what? So there's layers here, and it's not giving away everything. It's giving you that mystic, that what's that word? It's keeping like the mythology of the world hidden, but
Right.
giving you enough
Right.
to understand what's going on. So when he's like, well, you fought in the Clone Wars? Like,
Everybody knows what that is, so they don't have to talk about it.
right. Yeah, I did, and your father did too. Oh, well, where's his father? That's a good point. Where's your father? Why is this your uncle? You know, and like,
And then you find out.
you do find out.
Well, I mean, in the little story where he tells it from a certain point of view.
And there's not, I mean, there's a lot of controversy with keeping things unknown. Like, did you have to do a Kenobi show where this was their last meeting and that's why he calls him Darth now? You didn't have to do that.
Right.
But it's also optional to watch that. You know,
Yeah.
they don't insert it. That's not mandatory. Like a lot of the MCU stuff right now, it all is mandatory.
Yeah.
Like in order to watch the
That's not
Marvels,
cool.
you have to watch the Captain Marvel movie, and then you have to watch the Scarlet Witch, Vision of Scarlet Witch,
yeah.
and then Miss Marvel's TV show in order to really understand what's going on. And you have to do that in order to watch this. If you don't want to know what happens after 7, you don't have to. You can just watch something else. And I
Right.
think it's so interconnected and standalone that
Yeah.
it works no matter what. The Bad Batch just wrapped up.
Yeah, seen that.
You don't have to watch the Clone Wars. They're clones.
Yeah.
That's it. And they're doing their own thing. It's not requiring you to have pre-knowledge of what's going on.
Right.
It can stand on its own. A lot of people don't think Ahsoka's doing that. They think that it's another season of Rebels, but I think it's doing it fine. I don't know
its
if
own
you
thing, you
watch.
mean? I
Yeah,
didn't
it's
see
doing
it,
its
no.
own thing, and I think Filoni gets that because George got that.
Like
when-
they're in the kind of same mindset.
Yeah,
But so did, what's his name?
Favreau.
With the Mandalorian.
yeah,
Because it is set in that same world. And like when they flash back to it, or that one guy's got Boba Fett's outfit on.
yeah.
That's pretty cool. But it's its own thing.
It's all its own thing. You can watch The Mandalorian start to finish
Yep.
without another Star Wars thing going
Sure.
on and not miss anything.
Yeah. It just adds to it.
It just adds to it. It's all supplemental and it's all optional, which I think is the best way to do it. Like, if you don't like the prequels, you don't have to watch the prequels to still enjoy.
I didn't.
the
Because I
movies.
saw they came out.
They came out
didn't
way
exist.
after you, yeah. They came out before me or with me, and like, you don't have to. Like the way the world works, you can even watch Empire Strikes Back without
Yeah, you could.
having to watch the first one.
Yep.
Jedi kind of relies on what just happened because it's more of a direct sequel.
Right.
But even then, like if you threw Jedi on, I feel like it holds your hand enough to get what's going on.
Yeah, if like the first one, because they go and rescue Han Solo,
Just like
they're
the way-
following R2D2 and C3PO
Exactly.
just the same way. And this is where it starts with a rescue of this guy,
the
and
rest-
then you get to go on from there.
yeah.
Yeah, man, they're good.
They are so good, and it spawned these
Yeah,
a
a million.
large.
Yeah.
The what? What did you say?
There was a whole ton of like you got Galaxy of Terror. That's a
Yeah,
Alien and a Star Wars ripoff.
Star Crash.
Star Crash,
Battle Beyond the
Stars. And that's what I was going to say earlier. Like Planet of the Apes didn't have that. I don't remember any thing that wasn't Planet of the Apes like
After.
that. It was all
Just
the
more
TV show
Apes.
Planet of the Apes, the cartoon of Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, everybody wanted to be Star Wars.
Even Alien was got to be made because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the black hole, kind of. I saw a documentary about the black hole, and they were going to do because disaster movies were big too, like The Swarm, which is awesome about bees, or Side Adventure, or The Towering Inferno, something Earthquake. It was going to be called Space Station One, and it was a disaster movie in space, and they just tweaked it. They kept tweaking for like 10 years until they came up with the black hole. I like the black hole.
The
And I
Black Hole's a
understand
Disney
that.
movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
Disney.
it's really good.
In the Disney people, and you can see this if you watch documentaries where they're talking to the main. He did a lot of the matte paintings and stuff that are amazing. Their special effects people had a chip on their shoulder about the ILM people, and that they like somebody new comes along and I don't know what's so big about it. These are all older people. They're all like, these kids, they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
I'll do it better. The story wasn't there for the black hole, but the special effects I think really are. Even though that's not what black holes look like, it still is awesome.
Yeah.
And the meteors that come through the ships, one of them is like 30 feet long.
Wow.
The prop, and it lit up and everything. They put the work into that movie, and they didn't get the return on it.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
Yeah.
But you brought up the matte paintings, which is something I've talked about on this podcast before. That's how they did a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Like, if you didn't have what you needed, they painted it. Those are paintings. Like, when the Falcon is pulled in with a tractor beam, and it's going across the turrets and all that, that's a painting.
It's unbelievable how good they do.
Unbelievable. The rows of stormtroopers, those are paintings.
And there's something else as a painting in Star Wars. Oh, like some of the asteroids in the Empire.
It's like a
Just
potato
painting,
or a shoe.
And one
That
was a
stuff,
potato.
too.
Yeah, that's funny. They put a potato. They did potatoes in episode 3 at the big fight at the beginning. Somebody says we're gonna have everything but the kitchen sink, and there's actually a kitchen sink in it.
Yeah, they throw that in there too. And it's cool to think, because when you're doing your own movie, when you're doing your own thing, and you're green screening a lot of your stuff, like a lot of these new movies are green screened and
What's that called?
rotoscoping.
No, I'm
That's
thinking
what
of the area they put. It's like the void or the whatever. Go on.
Yeah, but you're compositing something on this green background. That's what they did in the prequels and everything else after this, and even really. They were doing some of it on these too. Well, not like this, but the sky was so blue that they had to essentially cut around certain things. But they're actually cutting the film around it, which is something we don't do anymore. So the rotoscoping technique was to you got that painting and you filmed on a different area of two people walking. You're cutting them out of the actual film and moving it across the painting.
Or having the painting in the back of like just the plate. Making movies is cool.
It's so cool.
You know, there's too much stuff to go into in detail.
Even with
We're
animation.
not even experts, but
Yeah.
it's really amazing and magical.
At Walt Disney World, there's a little museum. There's a little sidetrack of how they animated certain things, because a lot of those old animated movies were painted on like glass.
Yeah.
So to move the camera through it, you can't really do that. So each individual object and subject was painted on its own plane of glass. They were layered vertically.
Yeah.
And the camera was hanging here.
Yes, it's
and
nuts.
as it moves, because it's zoomed in on your back plate, and as it's moving out, things are coming into into frame. How do you think of that?
Yeah.
How do you think of
clever
that?
guys. It's unbelievable.
It really is. It's unbelievable. The land speeder, when they're whooshing into
Mos Eisley.
Mos Eisley, and you got that nice wide tracking shot of the land speeder. Any of those, because it's all in wide shots. They didn't try to cut anything off. It's the land speeder, the ground below it, and the ground above it. No wires at all, because everything's behind it.
Yeah.
They fooled you. There's a mirror under it. It's just reflecting what's behind the camera.
Yeah.
And it looks
It's magic.
real. It looks like that land speeder's really floating. I always wondered how they did it. It wasn't until I saw a set photo of the mirror. I was like, oh my god, that's amazing. This movie's just a technical masterpiece. And a lot of that has to be credited to Oh, what's his name? Brad Bird. I think his name is.
That's not it. I just had it. Anyway, the sound
director who.
Bert.
I think it's Brad Bird. I think his first name's Brad.
Anyway.
Yeah, him, who revolutionized.
The
sound design for all to come. All of this stuff was not done before, like the stormtrooper battle. Blaster rifles is taking on spring on those telephone cord, like the
guy wire
in there, just hitting that with like a wrench, and it makes that sound effect. The lightsaber, the hum of the lightsaber, so distinct, is a broken projector that he came home and it fell over and it was humming. It was just, and he was like, that's it. And he recorded it. And these same, while we're talking about this, because on Jurassic Park, they recorded the T-Rex thing, and there's a whole bunch of different animals. The iconic roar part of that high-pitched kind of the T-Rex, that's an elephant.
Yeah.
That did that one time and didn't do it again.
Man,
and
they got lucky.
Yeah. Like, imagine those lightsabers sound different because he came home and his projector wasn't broken.
Right.
Or it was making a different sound.
Like?
Yes, exactly.
By accident.
Yeah, it was all just whim. And it came together in such a grand way. The props used for the lightsabers, they were heavy glass rods. And you can see them.
That stuff on them, the
reflective...
from movie screens.
Yeah, the silver...
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've got a cord. On the hilt, they've got a cord, and you can see on Obi-Wan's, you can see the cord. It's kind of hidden in his stuff, but if you look for it, it's there. And he's twisting it as the blade ignites so that it shimmers like that in the camera. And you couldn't, you film it, and you hope you did it right, because you're not getting that footage back until the dailies come back the next day.
Yeah, the way they used to have to do it.
Yeah, it's not, you can't just take a picture and then look at it and be like, okay, let's do it differently now.
Yeah.
It all had to be developed and then comes back. And just all of it, it is a master class in filmmaking.
Everything.
If you ever wanted to get into it, story writing and sound design and special effects,
editing
and camera work, it's all here. It is a genuine masterclass of filmmaking in general. This movie also spawned expanded universes. Really, every single character in this movie has his own name, his backstory, and they've got a book about him somewhere.
Somewhere.
It's kind of nuts.
Everybody, the extra guy, the guy that the bartender.
Yep.
Has his own action figure.
He does. My friend and I were looking up on-screen lesser-known Star Wars characters, and for the most part, I knew some of them because a lot of them will come back, like the Duros people in the cantina. They'll come back in an episode of The Mandalorian or something.
Yep.
He said one, and I was like, "Who is that?" And it was a praying mantis. In A New Hope, in the cantina, behind like Chewbacca, is the head of a praying mantis, and he's got his own book. And a Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina book, he's got his own section in there, just for what he did.
It's like you could do that, just everything that you could do from it. It's or fan fiction or fan films and all that kind of stuff. It's insane. Star Trek's got that a little bit too. I think it's more with Star Wars though.
Yeah.
But Star Trek does it too.
And with Star Trek and Star Wars kind of becoming competitors, because I think Star Trek was out before Star Wars.
Well, yeah, the show was in the 60s. Then Star Wars came out and they're like, well, we can do that. We can make a movie. And they made a kind of boring movie that has great special effects. Then they made a good
Wrath of Khan.
Yeah.
But they never, it's what I really think is cool is that those two never, even though they're competing with each other, not stealing from each other.
Yeah, they don't really do that at all.
At all. And
because they're completely different.
They're completely, and my friend Joey at work, he's like, well, the question everybody asks you, are you a Star Wars guy or are you a Star Trek guy? He's like, well, I'm both, because they're two different things. It's like saying, are you an apples guy or an oranges guy? They're both fruit, sure, but they're completely different. The real question is, are you a next generation guy or are you wrong? Because
Are you wrong? That's pretty funny. I didn't like that when it first came out. I watched the first episode and I was like, nah.
yeah,
But later on, I got to, after I read the novelization of the series finale, I was like, damn, I need to give this another look. And because that's amazing. That's a great end right there. That's up there with Return of the Jedi. And it fits in because Star Wars is, you mentioned space opera before. That's not sci-fi.
no,
You can call it science fiction because they have robots and crap in it, but Star Trek is a science fiction entity, and Star Wars really isn't.
yeah. Star Wars is more of a fantasy.
Yeah,
Star Wars
it's
is
like sword and sorcery.
yeah. It's exactly what it is. You can put it in the middle. Well, I run a D&D game, and it was supposed to be set in like medieval Europe, but it was going to be Star Wars because they fit so well. It's a fantasy movie.
Yeah,
It's a fantasy story with
it's
sci-fi
everybody's
flavor.
story.
Yeah,
It's the hero story.
because it's Lord. Then in 90 something they did their first re-release with the special editions.
Yeah, like 95.
I think 95, and they added the
Was
Jabba
it
the Hutt.
97? Was it 20 years? It might have been 20 years. Anyway, yeah, where they added Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah, into A New Hope, and they added a whole bunch of new CGI digital things,
Yeah.
which we've come not to like in the modern era. But again, at the time, like, you got to realize that this movie was all shot on film, and now there are digital creatures in this thing.
Yeah.
Because George Lucas wanted to make a movie with digital creatures in it. So what did he do? He did it. It's impressive because we hate on him and all that stuff, and like the prequels look so bad. Why don't they look like Pirates of the Caribbean that came out at the same time? Well, the Pirates of the Caribbean wouldn't look good if George Lucas didn't invent the
Right.
way to do these.
And I think ILM did them anyway.
Yeah,
It's all
they
the
did.
same people.
And it's just they're progressing with technology. You
Yeah.
don't compare it to something that came out a year before because it had more time to do it.
Right.
Also, with the prequels, it was basically just George. With Empire Strikes Back and with Return of the Jedi, they're both not directed by George Lucas.
No.
Which I guess the greatest thing Star Wars ever did was take George Lucas out of it.
Well, those
Because-
guys is new, fresh. Return of the Jedi, Richard Marquand, I guess, was kind of like a TV director, which is what George kind of wanted to do. So he's telling him, go get me a shot of this, go get me a shot of that. But Irvin Kershner made Empire Strikes Back, and it's
best
George's
one.
story, but it's way more his vision.
Yeah.
And you can really tell. And you can kind of tell that with the prequels, too. I just don't care. I liked them from get-go. And the stuff that people were complaining about, I didn't understand. I didn't want to see Return of the Jedi Part 2.
Right.
I didn't want to see anything. I want to see all new stuff, and then I got all new
He
stuff.
did get all new stuff. And, those movies don't really, they get a lot of hate and stuff like that, but they don't give
Not so
credit
much
for what
anymore.
They do. No, they don't. Because my generation, who grew up
Blew
with
it.
those, don't let them get treaded on. I like you, I grew up under you, so I obviously loved them from jump, because you liked them from jump. I see a lot of people who are my age on like TikTok and Facebook who are like, well, I gotta admit, I was a prequel hater when they first came out. And I'm like, why?
Because I think it was trendy.
It was trendy.
Seriously, it was easier to hate on something that was already
Hated
huge
on.
than it was to just enjoy it.
Just
Or
enjoy-
sit there and watch it.
There's a lot in the Phantom Menace. It's coming back out. It's getting its re-release right now. That sure it wasn't great, but like there's a lot in it. Like there's more practical effects in that movie than there
Yeah.
are digital effects in
Yeah.
that movie. That movie was still
It was
shot on
the
film.
digital stuff with Jar Jar being the first digital character and stuff.
Yeah.
Because even some of that's practical.
Yeah, Ahmed Best is in costume.
Right. But it's seamless too. What the hell was I just talking about? With the practical effects, it's just great.
And if you don't like them, then you don't like them, and that's okay.
Yeah, whatever.
It's whatever, because there's stuff everybody doesn't like and there's stuff everybody likes, and it's not really that big of a deal. But at the same time, I don't think it's fair to say things that are like, oh well, Attack of the Clones is just a horrible movie. It only has like 2 or 3 good things, but like it also builds on the world.
It does
in such a necessary way that like
an absolutely necessary way.
Yeah, you can't get to point C without it.
Yeah,
and this one sets it all up.
Yeah, like sometimes I talk to people and like probably your age ish, and they're like, "Yeah, Episode 2 is my favorite Star Wars movie." And then even younger, they'll say like Star Wars is their favorite Star Wars movie. I'm just blown away if somebody says Star Wars is your favorite Star Wars
Instead
movie,
of A New Hope.
just because of it's all the other ones are a lot more succinct.
Yeah.
And that one lets things draw out. No, you know what I mean. It's a product of its time, but the special effects were not quite as good as they started there.
Right, yeah.
So everything's better, obviously. I just admire that people look at that and be able to recognize that it's still a good story.
Yeah.
And it's still cool.
And we break it down. We break down a lot. And Attack of the Clones is so complex that you can write a whole book about everything, because it is the movie where you get to see how conniving Palpatine is.
Yep.
It starts off with an assassination attempt on the Princess of Naboo. His planet, Naboo.
Queen of Naboo.
The Queen of Naboo. His planet of Naboo, her queen. He didn't want that to succeed. Because if that succeeded, it can cause some other problem.
Right.
But if she is attempted assassinated twice, she's going to have to go into hiding, leaving the only other senator from Naboo, Jar Jar,
Darth Jar Jar,
in charge, and who is way more easy to manipulate than the Queen of Naboo, who's been pushing a lot of things that Palpatine doesn't want to do. Jar Jar.
Right. In the first one, he's surprised that. What do you mean you're going back?
Yeah.
What are you doing? Come on, man.
He hires in subsequent novels and stuff like that, we find out that Jango Fett was a trained Jedi killer. They got a guy who's in all Mandalorian armor, who is known for killing Jedi, to be the clone template of the Grand Army of the Republic.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool little thing.
Yeah, like,
well, I didn't know that.
Well, they kind of hint at something like that at the very end of the movie.
Hinted things in those the movie that they probably should have maybe fleshed out a little more.
Mm-hmm. Well, like, without me telling you this, like,
I don't need to know that.
You don't need to know that. But like when Jango kills his bounty hunter friend, he uses it's not just a bullet, it's a toxic dart that is only found on Kamino.
Yeah.
So Obi-Wan now has to investigate this. It brings him to where these clones are, which nobody knew about at the right exact time that they need a giant army.
Right.
It's all so interwoven and clever that it is... Once you take a step back and you start looking at all these little details, like they poke fun at Palpatine's plan, because it's Palpatine hires Dooku, who hires Jango, who hires Zam, who hires a robot, who hires bugs to kill the Emperor, but the Queen. But if you really look at the plan itself, it's like you can't connect it back to Palpatine.
Right.
It all comes if you're connecting it back. I was hired by a man named Tyrannus.
Right.
Is what Jango Fett says. Tyrannus is Count Dooku.
Yeah.
They don't call him Darth Tyrannus in any of these movies.
Never.
It's only Count Dooku, because Count Dooku is a fallen Jedi. He's not even a Sith. He's a political figure. That's what Mace Windu calls him. He's like, they're like, well, what about Count Dooku? He fell. Well, he's more of a political figure. He's not evil. He wouldn't do that.
It's not in his character.
It's not in his character. And then when Obi-Wan's captured on Geonosis, He's like, oh, this is a mistake. What if I told you the entire Republic is operated by a Darth Lord of the Sith?
That's great.
He's
And
like,
I'm so glad Christopher Lee pulled that off so good. Too.
Oh my
they couldn't
God,
have got a better guy to do that.
no. And Christopher Lee, which, you know, this is really cool. Christopher Lee and Ian McDiarmid and Peter Cushing are all in these Star Wars movies.
Yeah.
They're all big Hammer horror actors
Yeah.
because George Lucas loved these movies too. He wanted to see his favorite actors on his movie, which is pretty neat.
It is pretty neat. Say Alec Guinness too.
Alec Guinness, Lawrence of Arabia. Anyway, we go back to the original Star Wars movie, but Disney owns it now, and they're got it on Disney Plus, and they made their own changes to it as well.
Yeah. I don't like that one with
The McClunky, is that the one you're talking about?
I don't know what you mean.
So on Disney Plus, so the Han shot first.
Yeah.
Thing, which we can get into. In all these Blu-rays and DVDs, he just shoots him, Greedo dies.
Yeah.
In this, he shoots him, Greedo says McClunky, and then he dies.
Yeah, that's not good one either.
You don't need to put that in there. There's no reason to put that in there.
No, I meant the no. That,
Oh, Darth Vader's.
Yeah, when he starts saying no, that was too much.
You know, I don't hate that. I just kind of wish he didn't say it out loud. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because he didn't originally.
He does, and you don't need, like, he's looking back and forth between his son getting electrocuted and this guy he gave everything to that turns out to be the guy making his life suck.
Yeah.
You don't need him to say
He wants
no.
to trade up too.
Yeah.
It can only be 2 Sith.
That's it.
And if he gets Luke, guess what? Chump, you're out.
I think I would have been okay if he said no once. If he was looking at it and he's just like, no. And then like he looks up or whatever. But like, he goes, no. And then throws him. That's too much.
Yeah.
But
It's unnecessary.
it got rid of Yub Nub and replaced it with the Celebration.
That was in the re-releases. They got rid of Yub Nub.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? I think it's better. I don't like Yub Nub.
Yeah,
I think
Yub Nub is kind of stupid, but I don't care either.
Yeah. I think it's cool to see the entire galaxy celebrating.
Me too.
That's so awesome.
That is awesome.
I also don't mind Hayden Christensen being Anakin at the very end.
I do. I don't like that.
It doesn't.
He don't look like that.
He doesn't look. It doesn't look like that. He didn't just look like that.
Right.
Why does he look like that? Because the other two don't get younger either.
Nope.
It would work if they did.
Yeah.
You know, that would be
make
kind of
sense.
cool. Yeah, and especially because they filmed it during Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
Ewan McGregor's right there, and Yoda's a puppet.
Yeah.
You know, so you could have just done whatever with him, but that would have worked. If you're gonna do that, have him even show
In their
up as their
glory or whatever, the best of them.
Or when Anakin, what's the Sebastian Stan?
Sebastian Stan, yeah.
He shows up there. Have him morph into Hayden Christensen.
Yeah.
And Alec Guinness does it with Ewan McGregor. That would have been fine, you know, because they know each other. Like that would mean more for those two characters. But if you
You only do
Luke
it with one, it
Skywalker.
looks like you just did it to do it.
yeah, so he's also way younger
Yeah.
than the other two. Like that's an old man and an old
Puppet.
puppet guy. Just to have a strapping young gentleman show up on the body, because they didn't replace the body, it's just the head.
Yeah.
It's
It
weird.
makes sense.
That one I do think should have just stayed.
Yeah.
It's fun to see Hayden Christensen in the original trilogy. That's
Yeah.
fun, but
It doesn't make sense.
it doesn't make sense. Not all of it works. I don't think the Mos Eisley, because really in episode 4, a lot of the changes happen on Tatooine. They happen right before the cantina scene. And I think people don't realize that. The movie's not full of CGI. It's got that there, and then the space battles look better.
Way better.
Because when we were watching the theatrical one, you can see when the TIE fighters are like spinning,
Yeah.
the rest of the film around
you
them
can
as
see
it's
that.
moving, because that's how they did it. They just had the picture and moved it.
Yeah.
And it works, but it could look better, and it does.
That kind of stuff is fine.
Yeah, you're enhancing it.
As
Just
long as it
enhance
doesn't look like it's fake.
Right.
now. Like, because Empire doesn't hardly have any.
No.
And they always show the same thing, the Emperor.
And
that
the
part is
Wampa.
cool, and they added to it. But the snow speeders, where they couldn't develop the plates all the way, or else they would have seen a line. I never noticed that you could see the stuff behind it. But that's cool. I mean, that's the only thing they really show, those two things, and that's probably it. Because it didn't need anything else.
No,
and they didn't try to. Oh my God! I like the original Bespin, where it's all white and inside, but it's gorgeous with the big windows. And why wouldn't you have those big windows?
Right, especially for a Cloud City.
It makes more sense. Yeah, that whole Cloud City stuff that they that was good too. But I don't like the way Jabba the Hutt looks in Episode 1.
I don't think they ever got it right. Because
it
doesn't look good.
They should have, I don't know. They shouldn't have done that. It looks better than the scruffy guy that's actually playing. And there is a little too much traffic in Mos Eisley. Yeah.
There's a couple of droids that will become references in the prequels, stuff like that they added in. But I get what he was going for. He wanted to make it look more full.
Yeah.
Because it is kind of barren.
It is.
But I don't know. You can leave it out. You can leave it out. You can.
There's a little. You could have gone just a little bit more.
Just a little more. And well, I don't know, because when they were doing the Jabba stuff, he went through 4 different redesigns trying to get it looking good, and I don't think in that scene he ever looks good.
It's the wrong colors too. It's more green.
Yeah. Well, the last one that they've got on Disney Plus, he's darker and all that stuff. I think they tried to match the color palette in Jedi.
Right.
But then even that, around you isn't that dark, so why is he that dark?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think he should have put it in there, and they had to, because he was a guy.
Step on his tail.
And he digitally moves. It's
I don't
awkward.
think that would happen. He can't be afraid of this guy.
And walk all over him.
Yeah, literally.
But Boba Fett showed up.
Yeah.
Which is kind of cool.
That is kind of cool. But I do like also that he's not in that originally. And but they all know who he is.
Yeah.
That's cooler.
Boba Fett really kind of keeps getting treated dirty.
Yeah, he does.
I love the Book of Boba Fett. I think that's a great show. It could have, in hindsight, if they're not going to do a season 2, and it's not going to be as connected to The Mandalorian, which is what I thought. I thought it was just kind of like The Mandalorian 2.5,
right.
And that Boba Fett would be in The Mandalorian season 3, and he's not. Give him his own stuff.
Yeah.
Because there's so much, and you don't always have to adapt everything. You really don't, but there's so much in Legends that is really cool that you could be doing with Boba Fett. Like the whole Bounty Hunter Wars, all of that stuff, you can do that 100%. Or you can just have him be a Mafia Don, but give him some actual stuff to do instead of just sitting around and standing around and then dying all the time. It's kind of...
being in a Bacta tank.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't get... Because, I understand that, it's cool to see the cool guy not being given the ceremonious death. He just got knocked into a Sarlacc, sure, but all the stuff that's cool about him came from Legends. So if you want to make him cool, maybe dip your toe into all that stuff, all the legwork that other people did,
and don't try to improve on it.
And don't try to improve on it. Just do it.
Do it, yeah.
Like Thrawn. Thrawn is a cornerstone in the expanded universe. He is huge. I actually just got done reading Outbound Flight that has a very young Thrawn in the Clone Wars era. And I think they are using him really well. He shows up in Rebels and they basically use the character from the books to bring him into canon.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's done well. And in Ahsoka, he's done well. So just do that. You don't have to go all overboard with it. You don't always have to overcomplicate it. It's okay to have something simple that you just put some flavor on.
Right.
And that's it.
not too much.
Yeah, don't go too far. Like
You
the
can
whole
always add more salt. You can't take it away.
exactly. Like when Cad Bane showed up, I thought it was a good idea to keep him hidden like that and to give them that standoff because in the Clone Wars, they had a couple episodes together, and it's implied that Cad Bane trained him. And there's a deleted episode where they had a standoff, and that explains where he got the dent in his helmet because they had a shoot off and Cad Bane shot him in the head. So for me to know that, and then to see them have the standoff and them reference something like that, you don't know anything about that, but
Right.
I do, so I get that flavor. The issue is that it wasn't fleshed out enough to where you would really care, other than it's just a cool-looking bounty hunter guy
Right.
fighting another cool-looking bounty hunter guy. And that should work, but I don't know.
Like those stupid dice.
I didn't even know those dice were in A New Hope.
I did, but I didn't care, and I don't ever notice them.
No,
And now they got to be the forefront of everything. It's just terrible.
it worked. I think it worked in Episode 8 when Luke gave them to Leia. Because
I don't know. How did she give them to him? They were already there. There'd be nothing to her.
well, so it would work because if Luke knew because it was something to Hans that we could see
She already
him.
had something of Hans, his kid.
Well, yeah, but you can't hand him a kid. He was there to give him time. So I think it worked because it would have worked better if we had known that's where that came from. Because when I first saw it, I was like, what are those? Because you see him pull them down, but like that could have been there in the last movie.
Right.
Rey could have put them there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So when she gives him the dice, that I think is a good way to do that, because it's like, I miss him. It's solid. It's like a solace thing, because Han Solo wasn't around carrying anything. He wasn't known for anything like
Right.
that. So that being a little thing off of his ship could have been a cool way to do that. Then you bring him back in Solo, and now it's just overkill.
Yeah.
It could have just been something small. It was okay. I was on the ship. Nobody was really paying attention, but there it is, and here it is now.
It should have
And
stayed
that's-
nothing.
Or it's just been nothing. But it became the running thing. It became the I don't want to say motif, but the Han Solo dice.
Yeah.
Now that's what it is, and it's kind of a shame because it could have just been a cool detail you noticed in A New Hope.
And that's it, yeah.
That was that, But they really. The one thing I will say about the Disney era Star Wars stuff, because I think they've given us more positive than they have negative in terms of Star Wars, but I think they're really trying to over explain things.
They are trying to over-explain things, and they do things by committee, and it's just not.
It's not
as good.
But you get so much good stuff that it's almost too easy to overlook the bad. Like the last season of the Clone Wars is so good.
Yeah.
You can
holy
overlook
cow.
so much. They just released a Tales of the Empire thing that's going to go through really nothing. It's a Morgan Elsbeth from The Mandalorian and Ahsoka, the girl with the Beskar staff. Is going to give her 3 episodes, and then another Clone Wars character 3 episodes. They don't really mean anything,
Yeah.
You don't have to watch it.
Yeah, that is the great thing about it. Is the palette is so big, you can just go off and do your own little thing.
Exactly. But now we're going to get a show explaining where Morgan Elsbeth got her Beskar staff. And do we need... It would be fine if we had only fractional stuff. But we have all of this stuff now.
Yeah.
It's getting kind of to be a little bit too much. Like
It's tedious.
It's tedious. It's oversaturating the market,
Yeah.
and you've really got to run that line over, because Marvel's doing it right now. They've oversaturated everything, and it's getting too much now. And you can do it that way and end up losing a lot of people, or you can play it safe and just like Visions. Visions is a great idea where they're just Star Wars stories. They don't go anywhere. They don't connect to anything. They're just stories in the Star Wars universe. That's why The Mandalorian was so good.
Yeah,
Or
that's
is
what
so
it is. Why it was so good.
because it's just its own thing, and it's developing its own stuff now, being more about Mandalore and the Mandalorian culture and stuff like that after season 3, which I think is a good idea, because I'm getting kind of tired of everything going back to the Empire.
Yeah.
And it's cool to see something new.
Yes.
They've got the Acolyte coming out, which is supposed to be, I don't know when this one's taking place, but that High Republic era is, I want to say, 1,000 years before Episode 1. So if this is closer or farther away from that, it'll be its own thing, but it'll be its own thing.
Right.
That's why people flock to the EU so much, is because the Old Republic was its own thing. Like, the whole Jedi Mandalorian War, like, we haven't seen anything like that before or since. So if they really just keep doing stuff that's their own thing, I think it'll be better. It'll be more consistent.
Yeah.
You know?
It's got to do something.
Yeah, they're making a new Rey movie that happens after 9.
Yeah, I thought they might not.
They might. I don't think they're gonna not. I think they're gonna do it because
They got the money.
They have the money, and it feeds into their park, and that's where all their money comes from. But Star Wars is just such a immense, fantastical place that really captures like a childhood at heart.
Yeah, really. And it's just, you don't have to think about it. It's just fun.
Yeah, it is.
And that's what's great about it.
It's a fun adventure.
And like doing this, or like back in the day, playing, I'm this guy, you're that guy, whatever.
Yeah.
Just doing that is, without just take yourself out of the world for a while. That's what's great about it.
Yeah, it's its own world, and it feels its own world.
And it's not ours.
No, it's
Even
not
though
ours.
it looks some things like it, like there's good guys and bad guys. It's not ours, and it's cool.
And it's not ours as fans either. Star Wars for you is different than Star Wars for me.
Absolutely.
And the next generation is going to be different than it was for me, and it'll always be like that. Like, there are kids growing up right now where Episode 9 is their favorite movie.
Yeah.
And I think that's awesome. I don't like Episode 9. When I rewatched it, it's the one
They'll learn.
movie that they'll learn. It's the one Star Wars movie where I felt like this was an actual disappointment.
Yeah.
Not because somehow Palpatine returned, but because you didn't go forth with anything new. It was a retread of everything. Yeah. There's a callback. You can have a callback, like when Palpatine in Episode 2 is standing on the platform looking out on the clones.
Yeah.
He's got the face, and they play the Imperial March.
Right.
Which is, they won in that movie. They had a happy ending. But it doesn't feel like it's a happy ending.
Right.
At all. It's dark, it's sun setting, the light is going out as this new empire is rising into the sky. That is a direct callback to how Empire is, where they're looking out, they just lost, but they're looking out into the galaxy there because there's still hope. It's the polar opposite, like poetry, it rhymes.
Yeah.
In Episode 9, there isn't really anything like that at all. And that's what sucks, is because they introduce all these cool little characters like Babu Frick or that bounty hunter
he was pretty
girl.
cool.
Yeah, they do nothing with it. It's just kind of like C-3PO.
Another thing they do that's terrible is, oh my God, Chewbacca just got blown up. What? Just kidding.
Right.
Oh my God, C-3PO is going to be gone. No. Stuff has more gravitas, and they don't have any of it in there. Even the Emperor.
Yeah.
The big bad guy.
There are 4 deaths in that movie. Well, 5, technically. And only 3 stick. The Emperor ends up dying, but he has a fake out kind of thing too. Ben Solo dies, but he kind of has a fake out thing too.
Yep.
And Leia dies.
Well, you can't fake.
You can't fake that one. But
even in the movie, we all know she's dead. But in the movie, what do you care? Everybody always comes back.
And they just brought him back. How are you gonna do that to me? Like, I get it. You know, like, if you wanted to make Rey feel like she just actually killed Chewbacca, maybe don't show me in the very next scene that Chewbacca's alive,
right.
and then have Rey go on for a while thinking she killed Chewbacca.
Right.
It's annoying because it feels like it's wasting your time.
It is wasting your time.
If you want C-3PO to feel like he just, because you just erased his memory.
In the trailer when he says, I'm just looking at my friends for the last time. Well, no, you're not.
You're not.
Because we're downloading your brain.
And like, and that would have like that would have been cool. Like, okay, you're saying goodbye to your friends one last time, but there's hope. Then they take him at R2-D2, but it doesn't work. They can't get his thing back. His sacrifice meant something.
Yeah.
Let it mean something.
Let it mean something. And let it be a sacrifice, first of all. Because I thought in the trailer, when his eyes were red...
He was going to blow up?
Yeah.
Yeah, so did I.
And that would have been awesome.
Because his eyes turned red, and then the next shot is those lasers destroying the planet, so it looks like it's a last-ditch effort.
Yeah.
They're in some kind of trouble where the planet's being attacked again, like some Death Star, and he... sacrifices himself to save his friends. That would have been perfect, especially for a character who I think is kind of annoying and is a coward. Yeah, that would have been perfect. Like in the one beforehand.
But they don't have to kill him because he'll never age.
Right.
He's going to be the same. You can have anybody in that suit or nobody.
But you really, I mean, Anthony Daniels is really the heart and soul of it, C-3PO. He really puts a lot of personality into that.
So does Peter Mayhew.
For Chewbacca.
But he's dead now, too.
Yeah. The new guy, whoever they got, Chewbacca, I don't know, which movie did Peter Mayhew die before they ended up...
It would have to be the last one.
Was he the last one?
I think he was in it. I don't remember.
I don't either. I thought Peter Mayhew died after 7 or 8. I thought they had a new guy. Because he's not in Solo. I don't think...
No, he's not in Solo, right. Maybe it was... I don't know. I don't remember. But yeah,
but you can tell
Chewbacca is good in Solo.
I like Solo. I can defend it all day long. I think it's so good.
And it's like everything we're saying. It's different.
And it's fun.
And
it's
except
exciting.
For the dice, it's cool.
Even the stuff with Kira, her being like a double agent. Yeah. You know, that's all cool. Great. And that's a cool place to take it too, because the whole crime syndicate, all that under the Hutt stuff, the Crimson Dawn. We never really get to see a whole lot of that stuff. I don't know why.
I never saw any of that stuff, and it didn't ruin any of it for me. I wasn't lost.
Right.
There's a big bad guy, and he's calling you on the phone, lady.
Imagine having a Star Wars movie where it's like Goodfellas.
Yeah.
Where they're all gangsters and crime lords. That'd be so cool.
It would be cool. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi show would have been cool if it was a fistful of Kenobi.
Yeah. But then, are you going to compare it to The Mandalorian? Because it's kind of got that heavy Western stuff.
And I probably would have. But it would have been good.
But they've got... they did stuff in the comic book where it's just Kenobi solving people's problems without being a Jedi and
going
trying
around,
to...
having adventures.
And it's pretty
being
awesome.
A bum. You'd be a bum, Obi-Wan. That'd be a good one, a Pulp Fiction Star Wars.
Yeah.
Handle that. 3 little stories.
And you know... Man, maybe it's just my love of Star Wars, but I think that Kenobi would have been the best it could have been if Vader and Kenobi just kept missing each other.
Yeah, it would have been made a lot more sense.
Yeah. And
if Obi-Wan Kenobi would have been the main star of that show.
Yeah, they do have a cast of characters that they're constantly going back and forth with, which... is okay if you're making a movie.
Don't call it Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Don't call it Obi-Wan Kenobi. Don't have it be the Kenobi show.
Right. Yeah, I don't want to keep crapping on stuff either.
Right. But that's a way it could have improved. Was instead, if you could have, I guess it was supposed to be a movie.
Yeah, it was.
Which is why it's so linear like that. Or have it
Solo blew it by
being
because they were
coming out right after Episode 8.
Come on,
like months. It was May and December.
Yeah.
Like that's you're going too fast, and that really probably was the final nail in the coffin for a lot of people.
I think so.
Because it's not a spectacle anymore. you're not going to see the new Star Wars movie
Right.
anymore. It's
You
just
didn't have to
the
wait.
next Star Wars movie. Which, for better or worse, is where we are today. But there's so much. There's so much you can... And, you know, the fans really probably do the majority of the legwork when it comes to a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because now that, you know, Kenobi's over and I haven't felt that since in A New Hope when Darth Vader says that and he walks off. You don't know what that's about. You infer that it's about Kenobi.
Now, yeah.
And then after Revenge of the Sith comes out, they're thinking, okay, you haven't seen him since that. So there's 20 years before you two knew each other exist. Kenobi comes out, and I think it's like 5 years after Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, it's not long.
It's not long at all. So, or 10 years. Episode 3 and 4 have a 10-year gap. So Kenobi's 5 years. So now, is it you haven't seen him in 5 years? Because now you see him once every 5 years now.
Yeah.
So there's a theory going around that when he says, I haven't felt a presence like this since, he's talking about Luke. Because now Luke and Leia are here together. He hasn't felt that since Padme. So it's Anakin saying
I
that,
get you.
you know. But
Yeah.
that's because we didn't like that you kind of messed with it, so we're going to put something else in there. Which I still like the whole, because like it's full of retcons. If that's his daughter, you didn't know it's your daughter.
Yeah,
You know,
all
you're
that.
sitting there torturing them. The Force is so strong.
They didn't get it.
They did. Well,
They
they
just
weren't.
didn't get it.
It wasn't supposed to be like that. You know, the next
Well,
movie.
what they ended up with, those people just don't get it.
Right. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Star Wars constantly retcons itself," but it's always retconned itself.
Yep.
Luke and Leia being sisters or siblings—that's a
Right.
giant retcon.
Darth
Darth Vader being
didn't kill
Anakin.
your father already is, but that's a good one.
Right. But it's, what I told you is true from a certain point of view.
Yeah, but he also says, "I'm your father." He's like, "Wait a minute." That's great.
And that, talk about the biggest reveal in cinema. Whoa.
Yeah, and everybody tries to do it again,
Yeah, they do.
and everybody falls short, except for the usual suspects. And stop trying to do it. Don't have some big twist thing, because most of the time you're gonna blow it.
It worked in Toy Story 2 when Zurg was Buzz's
Yeah.
father. And he's going to go play game of catch with my dad. That's silly.
That was good.
But look at that, referencing Star Wars. So
Yeah.
it's so thick in the pop culture.
Yeah.
Nothing. It has changed everything, and nothing has been the same since.
Yep. That's the absolute truth. For better or worse.
For better or worse. I've seen A New Hope more times than I can count, and I still get chills when Luke stands on that.
Oh yeah, with the music and everything.
Oh my God! He looks out on the double sunset,
Yeah, the sunset.
and they do it there, then they do it in Episode 3, and then they do it in Episode 9, because it is the shot.
Yeah.
They really do it in really all of them, you know. So
Kind
like,
of, yeah, because when they're looking out the window in Empire Strikes Back at the end.
right,
It's
it's
the
same
kind of music
thing.
and
When they're
everything.
looking out, like at the ghost, and then it pans out or it pulls out,
And
and
it's all those friends there.
yeah,
That's
all
really
together.
cool.
It's the same there. Again, it's very simple. Like, that's not a lot, but everything is working together to create this amazing piece of art.
Right. And that's... Don't force stuff on people.
Right.
We said that's amazing. And you know what I mean? Everybody, the fans made that into a thing. The fans made Boba Fett who he is.
Right.
When you try to force this stuff on people, it comes off cheap.
Yeah.
It don't
it's
work.
Played out. Yeah, and it just doesn't work. But I will say, every single one of these movies, you can pull a scene out of it and it all looks like a big painting.
Yeah.
Every single one of them. They all have multiple scenes, but like a one that you're like, that is beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's really a testament to it all.
Yeah, and their hard work and everything those people put into it.
Yeah, it's impressive.
So thanks.
Most impressive. All right, so this has been probably the longest podcast I've ever done.
How could it not be?
Yeah. But happy Star Wars Day. Star Wars is streaming on Disney Plus. I've got multiple copies. Personally.
It's always worth picking one up.
It's always worth it. You know, I've got that friend I keep talking about at work. He doesn't own this movie on Blu-ray. He only owns the DVD that came with the theatrical one. And that's the only one you have. And I said, well, why don't you get the new one? He's like,
I don't need it.
I don't need it. Because you don't need it. It's so perfect. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. If you haven't seen it, I don't know where you've been.
Yeah.
Check it out. Star Wars, happy Star Wars Day. May the 4th be with you. This has been She's Film, signing out.